What are your thoughts on RSAs?
RSAs, for everyone that doesn't know, responsive search ads. You could have up to 15 headlines. Really only need 3, but you could have up to 15. I'd recommend having 15. And you could have up to 4 descriptions, headlines up to 30 characters each, and descriptions up to 90 characters each. Just need 2, but again, I'd recommend filling them all up. Also, Google is going to sunset in, I think, just a few months from now, ETAs. Yeah, June 30th, 2022. I have it in my notes right here. If you're running ETAs or expanded text ads, they're still going to be able to run. However, you're not going to be able to create new ones. As you already noticed in the past year, it's been pretty hard to create new ones anyway. You kind of have to find the settings a little bit. It's not as easy. But yeah, so RSAs, I just want to provide like a few tips for anybody that's writing them. It could be a little bit overwhelming with like trying to fit up 15 headlines, thinking like, does it make sense to get populated in any order or anything like that? So first tip is to use all available headlines and descriptions, kind of what I already referenced, 15 headlines, 4 descriptions. This will really maximize the algorithm's ability to reach more conversions. Yeah, and ultimately it's going to increase your ad strength and your ad relevancy, which you can pull in as a column, your ad relevancy. If it doesn't say above average, you should work on it to getting it above average. And one way to do that is to maximize your headlines and descriptions and increase your quality score, which is ultimately going to help you have to bid less in auctions and also going to allow you to serve more. So one little like fine point in I think Google's help docs is that if you ad relevancy is low and you're not having the particular keywords in your headlines and your description and your RSAs, you're going to serve less. You're going to be showing up for less auctions and you're going to spend more to be able to show up for more auctions. So that's kind of quality score in a nutshell, but just maximize them. Think about some new. Okay, so 2 is to break up those 15 headlines into the following topics. So to simplify 15 headlines, because it could be a lot, I think about it in this particular structure. This is how I write it. I even color code it. I kind of put it in this breakdown. So 1 is like branded. You're going to want to have at least 1 headline that mentions like your brand name, your trademark name. So think about there's 1 headline right there. Now you only got 14 to go. The next one I do is keyword relevancy. So this just depends on how many keywords you have in your ad groups. But if you only have a few, this could be easy. If you have, let's say, greater than 10, it might get a little bit more difficult. But you usually, the whole 80-20 rule, which we'll discuss in a bit, there's usually like 1 or 2 of those keywords that drive a majority of your traffic. So my recommendation is to take 1 to maybe 4 of those headlines and have them with your keywords in them to increase your ad relevancy, your quality score. And with the tool, like the ad strength tool, when you're writing them, Google will even recommend like, hey, add this one and your ad strength is excellent. So that could be like for the dog bed example, it could be like cooling dog beds or like, like shop cooling dog beds, something like that. Just make sure your keywords in there. The second one, so now we're at like about like 10 more headlines to go. Value propositions. And I'll usually do about 2 to 5 headlines that are maybe like product specific or company related. And what that is like, so we'll go back to the dog bed example. Even though my dog, by the way, we don't have a dog bed, but we got a new couch not too long ago, and we had this futon in the living room, and we haven't like sold it or anything. And we haven't really wanted to get rid of it. So we just like moved it into our bedroom. So now our bedroom has like this giant like futon at the foot, and it's just become my dog's bed. So he just like sleeps on it on his back, and he's literally got a whole futon. So he lives like a king. But if you were searching for a dog bed, maybe in the future we'll be doing that, I would think about value propositions such as like supports dogs joints, or like delivers to your door, or like fast and free shipping, or sustainably sourced, and or like designed just for your dog, like things like that. So I would take like 2 to 5 headlines for that. The next one is trust. So this might also kind of cross over with the value props. But just for example, some things I think about trust is like USDA organic certified if you're a supplement company, or over 5,000 customer 5-star customer reviews. Yeah, I would just think about like particular trust things, like are you third party validated or something like that, or how many 5-star reviews do you have? Take a few headlines for that. Promotional. Well, this is going to take a little while just because there's 15 headlines, but this is just how I'm breaking it up. So I'll summarize it at the end. But promotional is kind of the next one. So if you run like an evergreen promotion, I would take at least 1 or 2 headlines and support that. So what I mean by that is like buy one, get one. If you run like a BOGO type deal, or money back guarantee, or I guess that would go more in trust, but like I said, there's a lot of crossover, or subscribe and save 20%. I see this a lot with like e-commerce companies, and they have like a subscription aspect to it, and usually you save like 20% or whatnot. So like subscribe and save 20%. Yeah, so just anything promotional, 1 or 2 headlines. The last one would be like a call to action. So again, the crossover, like shop cooling dog beds, that's a call to action. But if you didn't already have a call to action there, I would add in at least 1, if not like 2 or 3 call to actions. Like, what do you want people to do? Do you want people to check out now, like view your products? So just think about that and kind of weave those call to actions in. And that alone, like just thinking about those particular topics, which I'll just say right now, which is like a branded headline, a few keyword relevant headlines, get that quality score up, value prop headlines and trust headlines, maybe like 2 to 5 or so, promotional, and then your call to action. And that alone should get you 15 right there. So that is my tip number 2. Tip number 3 is don't use the same description for every responsive search ad. Like if you have like across your whole account and you're running the same descriptions just because you don't want to write new descriptions, I would say like really focus on that. Like some people do read it, and I think it's an opportunity to drive your quality score. So it could be as simple as like just switching out like a keyword that says like, instead of cooling dog bed, you say like elevated dog bed, because that's a particular keyword. So you don't have to make it super complicated, but I'd highly recommend that you just spend a little bit of time on not just thinking about your headlines, but also thinking about your descriptions, and make them a little bit relevant to the particular search term intent. The last one is around pinning. So Trent, I don't know if you use this, but there's a particular function where you're allowed to pin a particular headline to a position. So for example, if I always want to show like a money back guarantee in spot 2, I could pin it there. However, my recommendation around that is like, 1, like if you don't have to, there's no particular reason, don't pin, because you're only going to limit the amount of variations, and you're limiting Google's algorithm to optimize to the best performing for that particular user. But sometimes you have to pin. So like I was working for a brand and they needed to show their brand name in every single ad. And that was just like a policy. So it was either in position 1 or position 2. In that scenario, or if you really want to test pinning, my recommendation there would be to give at least a few variations to Google. So you could pin like 3 different headlines to position 1, and that still at least gives Google some variation. Yeah. And actually, I thought I only had, I have a couple more, Trent, but I'm going to stop there and ask if you have any particular comments before I just finish the last three tips that I have for responsive search ads.
No, I mean, I love them. I feel like I need to go back and review all my ad copy right now. I love the idea of, I think for me, you know, I'll just speak for my accounts. We have thrown headlines and descriptions in kind of ad hoc over time and trusted the algorithm to deliver the best results. And I agree on not pinning and letting the algo do that, but really breaking it out into these categories that you mentioned, I think is like super smart and something that, yeah, I definitely want to deploy in my accounts. It's great.
Yeah. And I would recommend it like for deploying, something that I'm sure that but like for listeners that don't pause old ads with historical data, like just add a new ad to the rotation. And then if the new ad starts to outperform the old ad, then pause it. But often like ads, even if it's like you think it's better and it might be a better customer journey in terms of experience, just from that historical data, that the old ad is going to outperform, and you're going to significantly like dampen your account for, depends on how many conversions you get, but it could be for a significant amount of time until that new ad ramps up. But
I think
the three
that
other, yeah,
just on that, I think that's key, especially when you're taking over a new account. I think when you take over a new account, you're so excited and eager to make changes and improve the performance. One of the things that sometimes goes into that, right, is cleaning up the account, pausing ads. I think you have to be very careful in that scenario, because even if an ad, like you said, is off brand, you don't think it resonates well, that historical data is like a cheat code with these things. Like, as long as the keyword has been running and the ad has been running, all that data built up, even if the ad doesn't seem like a good ad, you have to be really careful there. So I think that's a key nugget that you just dropped.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think we should do another kind of episode or some tips on just like auditing or like taking on a new account, like you're a new manager or you're a new kind of you got a new agency or something like that, and things that you should do and the things that you should avoid. And something that you always used to say, Trent, is like, it's what is it, like a cruise ship, not a speedboat or something. Yeah, don't rock the boat, basically. It's like when you get in there, it's like, what are kind of low-hanging fruits that are not going to have any negative impact, but only going to improve performance? And that might be just like adding a negative keyword or it's just some like subtle changes. And then slowly rolling out the new changes. Because even if you think they're the best in the world, it's like that historical data is ultimately going to outperform. So let me just go through these last three tips for RSAs. So tip number, I guess this would be 5, ensure your headlines and descriptions make sense individually and when combined. So this could be a little tricky, especially when you think of like, you want to make sure that you have your keywords in at least like a few of your headlines. And what if you showed like cooling dog beds and like, let's just say like large cooling dog beds, or like, it's a bad example, but you get the point, where it's basically like, if that was to show up in headline 1 and headline 2, it wouldn't make sense. But you have to have a little bit of faith in Google. But what I really mean by like make sense individually is don't write repetitive headlines. And this is something that Google recommends in their help docs. It's like saying like fast and free delivery. And then you have another one that's just like free 2-day delivery. It's like you kind of already made that particular point across in your particular value prop. So like just write it one way and come up with a new one to speak to it. It's like not call now and call customer service now, like things like that. So like just think about it with common sense in terms of repetition, but don't worry about it too much in terms of keywords and kind of those keyword headlines. Just think about it in more of your value props and your call to actions. Like make them individual call to actions, make them individual value props that stand alone. one on reviews, one on free shipping, one on your guarantee, things like that. Don't write like 3 on different ways how to say like free delivery. Number 6 is optimize to the best performing ad. So this is something that we talked about just before, which was in terms of landing pages. So actually, correct that, not landing pages. This is optimize to the best performing ad. You should it should be a default on your campaign settings. So like don't optimize or rotate evenly. In terms of that, Google probably already like remove that in the future, but always keep that setting on, and yeah, and have faith in that Google is going to optimize for that best user experience. The last one is, this is a big one actually, and I left it to the last, but like don't ignore moderately restricted messages on your ads. Like I think that's like a huge tip of like not writing RSAs, but like ads in general and like your account in general is like when you see that right next to your ad and it says moderately restricted, and that could be for like a bunch of reasons, but it basically means, to sum it up, is you're showing up for only a portion of the search queries that you could possibly be serving for. So you're limiting your volume, you're limiting your growth. So if it's a simple fix, and sometimes it is, like just fix it, like appeal it, like fix whatever the issue is. But a lot of times it's not a simple fix. And so like a few tips that I would have is like, reach out if you have a Google rep and you're saying like, hey, this doesn't make sense, like have them push it to the policy team. And if you don't, then kind of like bug Google support until they give you an answer. Like just keep messaging them and eventually you'll get to the right person. If you truly believe that like, hey, your product's getting restricted because they think it's like a gun or a weapon or something, but in reality, it's just like a garage tool, and it has the name gun because it does something related to that. As you can tell, I don't work on a lot of cars. So for that, but no, yeah, don't ignore it.